tax deed investing for beginners. In today's video, I'm going to give you the basics of tax deed investing, tell you some of the things to look out for, and how to develop the expertise so that you can be a great tax deed investor and make money with it. And I'm going to give you a resource for a brand new way of doing tax deed investing that a friend of mine is doing that is amazing, far better than what anybody else is teaching and far different than anybody else is doing. And he's really killing it with it. And this is a man that you can learn from. So make sure you stay on until the end. So tax deed investing is when you buy properties that are being sold at tax foreclosure sales. And tax foreclosure sales are when properties are sold by the county or the local taxing authority because someone didn't pay their real estate taxes, typically for 3 or 4 years. Then counties will put the property up for sale. They'll sell the property to the highest bidder, and the bidding starts at a very low price, typically just at the taxes owed. And generally speaking, real estate taxes are a little under 2% of the home value on average. So for a $400,000 house, which is kind of regular house in America, you're talking about a tax bill that's around $8,000 a year. If someone falls 3 to 4 years behind, meaning somewhere between $24,000 and $32,000 behind in taxes, they are going to sell that house, and they're going to sell it to the highest bidder. And even if you take into account, penalties and interest, they probably only owe between $50,000 and $60,000 worth of taxes on a $400,000 house. And from your perspective as a bidder at the tax deed sales, those properties are offered starting bid at the taxes that are owed. So if there were $50,000 to $60,000 worth of taxes owed and you have a house worth $400,000, you have the potential of getting that $400,000 house for $50,000 or $60,000. Now, I will tell you that's not typically what happens, at least not if you do it the conventional way. If you do it the way I'm going to show you at the end, then it is the way it works. But most of the time, if you just go the conventional way where there's a voice auction and people are raising their hands, that property is going to sell for between 70 and 80% of its as-is value. So if it's a $400,000 house, it's going to sell for $300,000, maybe $320,000, somewhere in there, depending on its condition and the appeal of the neighborhood and the street appeal. But somewhere in that range, which is a great deal for a bidder. I mean, if you buy a $400,000 house for $300,000 or $320,000, that's a good buy, really good buy. But most of the time at those auctions, the bidding is competitive. So you probably will be paying 70 to 80% of its as-is value, which is good, but it's not knocking it out of the park. So what I wanted to talk to you about secondarily is my friend Tony that came up with a system that's just amazing, where he basically just gets lists of properties that are available to be purchased for the past due taxes, and you literally just look through the list and pick the ones that you want, and you buy them for the past due taxes. Really amazing. Now there's a process to it. There's a process to getting lists. There's a process to doing what's called due diligence, where you find out what other liens there might be and what else you might have to pay, but you have time to do that. And given a process, you can really kill it on these things because you can pick up those properties for taxes due, just pick the right ones, and then you are buying it for literally 15 or 20 cents on the dollar, which is amazing. And these are really good way of doing it. So he recorded a video with me. We just sat down and did basically an interview, sort of talking war stories, and he's telling me about what he was doing. And I liked it so much that I decided to put it up on YouTube because it was amazing. And he talks about the way he gets these lists and how it works all across the country. And what I like about it, it's so much less competitive and such less of a headache than it is to buy normally. And I'm going to, in a moment, just tell you how you do the normal buying process. But if you want to see the interview with Tony, just down below, there's a link to my interview with Tony. Go check that out after this video. It's 20 minutes long. It's a great education in this brand new way of buying properties at tax deed sale with like zero competition, plenty of time, and far less headaches. Really great way to buy. So let me talk to you about the normal buying process. So normally you're going to get a list of properties going up for sale anywhere from 30 to 60 days in advance of the sale. So you have a month and a half or so to check out the properties before the sale. And the lists are big. I mean, when I used to buy in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, it was an annual sale, and the list would be about 3,500 properties, and it would come out 45 days before the auction. You can't look at 3,500 properties in 45 days. It's impossible. It's impossible to do. So we would have to choose a small section and say, all right, we'll do these couple of zip codes, and we'll check out all those properties and see if we can get something. And so you're going to go look at these properties. You have to physically put eyes on them. You have to. Because sometimes these properties are going up for tax sale because they're water damaged, they're fire damaged, they've fallen down, they're empty lots, they're useless pieces of property. You really do have to look at each property. And here's kind of the catch, because there's always something, right? The biggest catch with these properties is that most of the properties that are listed for sale won't actually be sold. And you might say, well, wait a minute, why are they listed if they're not going to be sold? Here's what happens. When someone's property actually gets listed for sale, then the people run around collecting whatever money they can and they pay their taxes. And they do that because they want to keep their property. Now they have a deadline to do it. So they run around and most of them will catch the taxes up before the sale, which means the property won't be sold. So we got a list of 3,500 properties at that sale. But by the time the sale came around, there were 1,000, maybe 1,200 properties that were actually sold. And of those, probably half of them were completely valueless pieces of land. These are things that are like marshes, little narrow strips of land that came up from a surveyor's error when they subdivided, just completely useless things. And you need to understand that because you don't want to buy one of those properties thinking that it's this amazing thing when really it's a strip of land 4 feet wide that just came because the surveyor made a mistake. That's not good. So you need to make sure that you do your due diligence, and due diligence is the name of the game in this. You need to check, are there liens that are going to remain on the property post-sale? And liens that will remain could be building code violations, grass cutting violations. Any municipal lien can potentially outlast that sale, meaning you still have to pay it. And certainly if you have a building code violation that's continuing, it's going to continue accumulating costs. And you want to make sure that you understand what those are so you do your due diligence. And the sales are different in different states. So, what might be the case, like here's an example. In Pennsylvania, they hold one kind of tax sale called the upset sale, where the joke is you're going to be upset if you buy at that sale. The reason is it comes subject to mortgages. That's one where the mortgages aren't wiped out by the sale. Virtually everywhere else in the country, mortgages are wiped off properties by tax sales, but not at that upset sale. So every year we'd have people that come into the annual upset sale, which is the third week in September, and they'd bid and they'd buy properties with big mortgages on them, not knowing it. And they'd end up with a property that it was a terrible deal. They literally would have to walk away from what they paid at the auction because it still had a mortgage on it. So you want to make sure that you understand the rules. And the way you do that is you sit down with a local attorney and hopefully a local investor who knows the ins and outs, and you get the skinny on it. The way to find the attorneys, which is going to be your easiest person to find, is just run some searches like, how do I buy a property at tax sale in Indiana or wherever you want to work? You're going to find some attorneys that write articles sort of showing off their expertise in that field, and they're trying to get business, trying to drum up business. So when you see those articles, you can reach out to that attorney and say, hey, Sally, I saw your article, thought it was great. I'm going to be buying some properties at tax deed sale. Could I sit down with you for an hour and go through this, and you could give me the skinny on what needs to be done, what due diligence, and how you can help me? And typically you're going to pay them, not always, but typically you're going to pay them for an hour or so of time, which is fine. And they're going to tell you what needs to be done, and you'll have the connection that you need, because in the tax deed buying business, you will need an attorney. Sometimes they're evicting occupants. Sometimes they're doing title work to make sure that you have a marketable title, which often involves something called a quiet title action. They're helping you comply with the rules and laws, which, there are as many as the 50 states, I'll put it that way. There are different rules in different states, and you need to know them. And sometimes the rules vary among counties. Like in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, there's one kind of sale in Philadelphia. There are two kinds of sales in the counties outside of Philadelphia that are completely different. Philadelphia sale does wipe out mortgages. County sales don't. Philadelphia sale has a right of redemption in some cases. Outside the county, you don't. So there are lots of differences, and you need to understand them. So you sit down with a professional, you pay them for an hour or two of their time, and you get the connection that you need. If you don't do that, you're being foolish, because you won't know what you're doing, and then you'll find out by the School of Hard Knocks, which is the most expensive school you can go to. Also, you may want to talk to some investors, and that could be a little trickier, but go to some auctions, and maybe go to auctions that are outside of the area that you're going to be investing in, and look at the people that are bidding and chat them up a little bit. See if they seem friendly and talkative. Some people are. Some people like to talk a lot. And talk to them. And if it's someone who you think you could learn a lot from, maybe suggest to them, hey, I'd like to buy properties in this other county, not the county you're in. Would you be interested in doing some consulting and help me out with that? And probably for a couple $1,000s, they'd be thrilled to do some consulting. And you can probably get a good business consultant that way who knows the business. And you may offer them a small percentage of the deal. It's another way you could do it. But first establish a relationship, see if the person really does seem to have valuable information, because they can have some street knowledge that your attorney doesn't. Like, for example, where the most valuable properties are, who good real estate agents are, who good contractors are, and things like that, that the attorney may not have, because that's just not his or her field. Tax deed investing can be a great way to get properties at bargain prices, but it's definitely not for the uninitiated. Now, all those complications of dealing with occupants, dealing with liens and all that stuff is much easier if you use the method that my friend Tony teaches and he's developed, because there you're not competing against anybody else. You can look at the properties ahead of time. You can determine if it's vacant or not, and you have time. Usually with the auctions, you don't have time because you have this problem where you have 3,500 properties listed for sale, of which 1,100 are going to be sold, and half of those have value, the other half don't. And it's a big race to try to do due diligence, and there's only so much you can do with that. So with Tony's method, you literally just get printouts of properties that are available to be sold for the taxes that are due, and you just buy the ones that you want. And you have time to do the due diligence. The best deals are there, the least headaches are there, and I think that's a better way to do it. So my suggestion would be, I've given you the education. You know what you need to do if you want to go do tax deeds in your county. But definitely as a part of your learning this business, watch that interview I did with Tony and learn about that system. And I think you'll be really happy that you did. He does offer teaching. He offers courses and live events and things like that, where you can learn more about his method if you want it. And just in my case, I've started buying properties at tax sale in 1989. So I've been at this a long time. Tony's method's the best by far. Least headaches, most profits, and a little niche that's not competitive. So that is definitely the way to do it. So go click on the link below, watch my interview with Tony, and you can take it from there. And from me to you, I just wish you the best of luck. This can be a great field. You can pick up great properties, make really good money, and have a really good business. But do it right. Make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure that you investigate thoroughly. And then when you're ready, make your buys and make your money.